weekly hemp update for everybody. As you guys know, we have been dealing with a little bit of a recess. So things have been slow last couple weeks. So Dwayne, why don't you just take us off and walk us through what the world in DC has been like the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, the world in DC last 2 weeks has been a cluster, but I don't want to cuss on this call. Before, especially in the House,
And a cluster not for us, but
no, not for us, but just in Congress, sorry. Before the National Defense Authorization Act, it's a bill that usually passes in bipartisan fashion, went down. Members were sent home early for the 4th of July with the promise to pick it back up once we get back. That threw a wrench in a lot of different things. There's a lot of uncertainty. As you know, those who don't live in DC, especially on the House side, when you take down a rule, that's a big no-no, especially if you're in the majority. That happened, and it kind of gave everything a crashing halt. So I think leadership in both chambers on both sides of the aisle are regrouping to see what the next steps are. Unfortunately, our issue is not at the top of priority. Not that it's not a priority, it's just for them, the National Defense Authorization Act is their top priority right now in Congress and trying to find a way around that.
And that's because these guys have a lot of bases in their backyard. They're about to start running out of bullets potentially.
Right.
That type of stuff is what they're going to be paying much more attention to when you got generals banging on your door.
Right, right. So, with that being said, we have, the House will be back in next week. I anticipate more members of Congress discussing. I actually talked to a couple of chiefs yesterday who they're strategizing about the pathway forward that they can advise for their bosses for the last 2 week stretch. So basically, we've got 2 more weeks starting next week, and then we go into what they call the August recess. And Brian, I'll let you talk about the Senate in a second, and then I want to come in after and talk about the importance of August recess.
Yes. I'm just getting verification. I can announce something.
Well, I tell you what, you work on the verification, and I'm going to go on the
Yeah.
importance of August recess, and then hopefully you'll get the thumbs up or thumbs down by then. So the bigger reason is we got a 2 week push. It's a 2 week push for certain things that should be happening to happen, and then members go home for a whole month. This is where, those on the call back in the districts, again, thank you for all who came into the fly-in in January. This is where we're going to ask for you again, right? Because the members, the House members, the senators, the Republicans, the Democrats, they're all going to be home for a month. They're all going to be either campaigning or they're going to be going to different events. You're going to see them if you would like to see them all throughout August. Continuing to harp on this being an election issue and this being a top priority will be key. So when members, if it is not fixed in the next 2 weeks, when members do come back after August recess, hemp is on their mind. Regulating hemp is on their mind. Bringing stability is on their mind. And that's going to be the importance of August recess. So we've got some things at Hifa that we're going to help get out during August recess to help you guys out, to get your word out. But I would also encourage any of you guys, invite your member of Congress to visit your facility, set up a meeting with your member of Congress during August recess. It is not that hard. It's literally just, again, it's just shooting an email, right? And those members, if they can't do it, maybe their district director will be down. A lot of times the chief of staff is down. Their congressional staff go down for a week or two during August recess. So August recess is going to be monumental this year for them to hear from you. With that, Brian, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, so we're going to do our call. So just an update for everybody. Next week, we're going to be doing our call. We're going to be moving it to Wednesday. We're going to be having a special guest join us to discuss the bill that they plan to drop in the Senate. That member is Senator Sheehy. So Senator Sheehy will be joining us next Wednesday. And so we're going to be moving our call to Wednesday of next week. And at that call, we're going to be discussing what's in the bill he plans to file, which is going to be all encompassing to help protect the entire hemp industry from industrial all the way to the consumable side. So that's a positive, movement piece that we're happy to share and announce. As Dwayne alluded to, I imagine next week we're going to see some movement on both the House and the Senate on a comprehensive bill that provides protections for the industrial folks, that provides also the regulations for the consumable folks. And this has been, part of the project that Hifa and a lot of our partners have been working on throughout the last several months. And it's been a process, it's been a bear. Just as we get to a spot where we're good, we have to, correct some misinformation that might be given from some folks that are maybe trying to get carve outs for themselves. There's just a lot of things and a lot of moving pieces. I wish folks would just let us work and try to protect every piece of the industry. But the good news is next week we have Senator Sheehy joining us on Wednesday. We're going to send out an email blast promoting that. And I imagine next week we're going to see a lot of movement, and we're going to finally have all those CTAs for everybody to be able to start blasting out to our consumers. Now, one of the other really good positives that we have too is the White House has requested that hemp get added in to a small ag supplemental. That's right. Is that right, Dwayne?
That's correct. That's correct. They sent that to the Hill. I know we discussed it right before July 4th week, but they sent that to the Hill, wanting to work with Congress on that. I mean, we heard from honestly a lot of Democrats who were like, thank you very much. This is what we need as well. And then a lot of Republicans, especially in the House, where you had a bipartisan effort saying, hey, this isn't a Republican only issue. The administration likes it. We like it. The market wants certainty. In Congress, you don't have a habit of moving fast, but get on your ass because, we've got a deadline here. So that was key. Brian, I would love to just real quick talk about Senator Sheehy because this has been, 8 to 9 months of people from the state of Montana sitting down with the senator, walking him through everything, why this is important not only to farmers, why this is important to consumers, but also bringing the veteran angle, right? I don't know if you guys know Senator Sheehy's background, but he's very passionate about veterans issues. And, his whole thing was, I want to give veterans a choice, and I think, and again, I love Senator Rand Paul, love him, I love him, I love him. But having a fresh senator take up this issue, it breathes fresh air into the issue again. And I'm hoping, and we won't say, but I think it's not just going to be Senator Sheehy introducing this bill next week. There will be another companion. So with that being said, that's great news that we'll have Senator Sheehy on next week.
Yep. And very, very excited, very grateful that the senator and a number of other senators have opened their door and had great conversations with our team and a number of the CEOs as well as others in the industry as well. I know these guys do want to find a solution to this, and it's just a matter of helping these guys to understand just some of the nuance and some of the misinformation and
Right.
trying to alleviate some of the concerns about some of the other louder voices in the room that are much better funded than this industry, and they have the resources to be able to drive dollars into more lobbying and more ads and things like that. But very, very grateful that Senator Sheehy will be joining us.
And
I know that there's a number of folks that are from the veteran community that have had great conversations with him, as Dwayne has said. And so very grateful. And so next Wednesday, we're going to have Senator Sheehy joining us. I'm very excited about that. And so Dwayne.
just real quick, because I want to tell you guys how, the power of educating members and talking to them. He was talking about the veterans, talking to Sheehy. I remember going to Senator Sheehy's birthday party last year and bringing up this issue. And he wasn't aware of it, right?
That's
And
right.
then all of a sudden, people started setting up district tours. People were inviting him to come by their shop in Montana. People were talking about, the importance of certainty. And just like other members, once they start hearing and start understanding and start digging in it for themselves, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, absolutely, we should be doing something. We need to bring certainty to the market. I would say Senator Sheehy is a prime example of that. Someone who was hesitant at first, but then talked to a lot of veterans, talked to a lot of farmers, talked to a lot of people in the industry back in his state, and now he wants to step into the ball game. I think that's a great testimony.
Sure is. Dwayne, is there anything else you want to touch on with the ag supplemental piece? How that process could play out, just to inform folks.
I mean,
It's Congress.
as Congress, I would tell you, man, they're going to deal with the National Defense Authorization Act when they come back. I mean, that's just going to happen.
The reality.
I think in the Senate, those who can Google know what the top talk of the town is in the Senate, so people can fill that in. There's a lot of uncertainty, but again, there's going to be a 2 week sprint before they all go home for August recess, and so um, that's all I got. If I could predict this, Brian, I'd play the lottery and win hands over fist. So it's just Congress right now.
Yeah, it's really a tough one to predict, as we've been learning, because just when you guys, you hear us say, oh, Bill's coming, wrench, curveball, things happen. And it really is hard, to predict what's going to happen in DC. It's much easier, I think, in state government. A lot of you guys have been dealing with state governments. I think it's a little bit easier to predict how state governments are going to operate and roll. And DC is just,
So I'll give you an example. I won't mention any names. It's always interesting, and the person is okay now, right? But we were on the cusp of a bill being introduced, and then unfortunately, the staffer got sick, and the staffer was out for a week,
yeah.
right? And I mean, you can't foresee that, right? And that's just some of the things that you just got to adapt and roll with, but also emphasizing the importance of getting something done. So I will say that Congress, House, Senate, Republican, and Democrats all have the ag supplemental letter from the White House. So anybody that wants to plead ignorance is wrong. So
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to plead ignorance on that. I
yeah.
mean, and again, we're very grateful that President Trump and his team have found value in protecting the hemp industry, and that they are, want to see this industry get saved. So very grateful for that. So that being said, Dwayne,
I'll let you get the first one. I'm just going to say, and also I know we've said it again and again. Democrats are majority are in a really good place. They are for regulating the market. They may have different ideas, but they think that this market should be regulated and not go away. So it's not really the Democrats that we're worrying about. It's coalescing the Republicans to get in a good spot. And sometimes that's a little bit more difficult. And so that's why when Democrats see that the president wants this, they're like, okay, guys, this is a real bipartisan effort. We got to get this done. So,
truly, it is America's top priority or top bipartisan issue, other than
the
voter.
NDAA, yeah,
Yeah.
that went
So
down last week. So yeah, there we go.
so it is. I mean, what the numbers are like 85%, or it's just ridiculous how America wants to see this regulated, not banned. And members of Congress need to listen. But let me segue into the first question.
Uh-huh.
Insanity that happened at this is from Brandon of Liberty Leaf. Great name. Uh, can something something something. It kind of cuts out with the insanity that happened at the Texas HHS hearing a couple of days ago, and seeing that the RNC convention is in Dallas. Could we get the White House to pressure the Republicans here in Texas to support the new federal bill backed by Trump? Yes, absolutely. That is a great question. I think really at the end of the day, the thing that needs to be done is we need to get regulated on the federal level, because that will make the fight much easier in states such as Texas and everywhere else. I mean, at
Yep.
the end of the day, Like right now, look, the strategy with Hifa, and we were involved with the Texas Hemp Business Council on the litigation that was done out there. They do great work over there, the Texas Hemp Business Council. Um, and we worked with them on our litigation, and that's ongoing. And but at the end of the day, we realized like if we can't nail the federal piece, and I'll say this, when I met with Governor Abbott last year, I think last August it was. We met with him and we brought folks were representative of every piece of the industry. The resounding piece of feedback I got was, well, if the federal government backs it and supports it, then we don't see a reason not to. That was the feedback I received, not only from, the governor and other members of the House. The Senate was a little different because the lieutenant governor's just on some crazy jihad to ban the industry for whatever reason. And I think hopefully we can get him to cool that once the federal government regulates it, um, because this is a priority for President Trump for them for this to get fixed. And so I think the lieutenant governor will be more inclined to listen once he sees what the regulatory package that the Trump administration sent over to Congressman Barr and a couple of others, 4 months ago, 3 months ago. Um,
Mhm.
I think this will help us in a lot of states. Missouri got, shellacked this last year. I think that there's just a lot of misinformation, and I think certain people take liberties with the lack of a regulatory structure in creating
Yep.
their own because of whatever reason. Our goal here is again, get good regulations to choke out the bad actors,
Right.
so that the good actors can thrive and succeed, while also protecting the most jobs. That has been our goal, and every single product line, from flour to gummies to beverages to tinctures to dog treats to industrial, all the fun things. We want to protect all of that. We want to protect American jobs.
And I would say this, and I've been saying this to a lot of members of Congress who are still making up their minds. I look, guys, the greatest threat to the hemp industry is not regulation. It's uncertainty. Like responsible companies want rules, retailers want clarity, consumers want confidence, investors want profitability, right? And good policy makes stable markets. And when you don't have that, then there's uncertainty. And that's what we're facing right now. And when you're explaining it to members of Congress like that, then they're sitting there being like, this is how we become more responsible.
Yep.
Right. And so I encourage you guys to continue to push that message, and then, it continues to amplify, especially during August recess. I've gotten some questions. I told you guys to Google it over in the Senate, and people kept asking anyway. Unfortunately, guys, I don't have any update on Mitch McConnell. I will only say that he has had a hand in putting a lot of members in the U.S. Senate and the positions that they're in. While he was majority leader, there are yes. So I think a lot of people are waiting and seeing. So I wish I could give you the tea. I wish I could give the tea to all 318 of you. Unfortunately, I don't have it.
Yeah, but we wish him a speedy recovery. And hope that should he be able to return sooner than later, that he listens to his constituents and his farmers, who he put out of business or potentially put out of business if we don't get this fixed. And so wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here.
Couple people are asking Brian, if the extension is the most valuable path, getting 218 in the House, 60 senators sign regulation in election year. Look, man, I'm with anything that can get into the president's hands and signed. And whether that's, the Bar language, the Sheehy language, I need to make sure I pronounce Sheehy language so it doesn't sound like I am cussing, or an extension. So, out of those, whatever can get to the president's desk, that's who I'm supporting. But a lot of that is also going to be up to you guys. I know you're getting tired of me saying August recess, but if members hear from you during August recess, going into an election year, I do think that it can move mountains.
I am inclined to agree with that. And just to give everyone a timeline, if again, if we can't get anything done and moving in a funding vehicle or on a standalone bill for the regulatory structure, August recess happens. We come back in September, and the pressure gets even louder and more on these members leading into an election year.
Hmm.
And none of these guys want to put 500,000 jobs out of business going into an election year. And we're still very bullish that something could get done before August recess. But if it doesn't, an extension is a very reasonable path. Not the path that we want in the sense of creating regulation, but it's a lifeline that will get extended into the next year to 2 years for Congress to
Right.
actually figure this out.
And I will say that, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Brian. I apologize.
No, it's all good, bud.
I will say I can't speak for how the House and the Senate will be approaching things this Congress. But for my 20 years of being up here, a lot of times going into an election year, members come back after August recess and there's some sort of package that pushes whatever that could be expiring into lame duck. And again, for those who don't know what lame duck is, there's that period between after the elections take place and the swearing in January, where it's kind of like a no man's land, right? These members that are lost, they still get to vote on stuff. And these members that got elected, well, they can wave at people, but they can't wield any power until January 3rd when they're sworn in. But during that time, all the items that are unfinished or all the items that need to be addressed are brought up to the forefront. So again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen this cycle. I am just saying over my 20 years going into an election year, about 90% of the time, something like that did happen. And that's usually that September timeframe.
Um, well, this is actually a good question, Dwayne, because it taps into your level of expertise.
Talk to me.
Does the potential Sheehy bill mean the Barr bill is less likely to go forward?
No, 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 no. Basically, I'm gonna let Sheehy talk about his bill. But the good thing is Sheehy's in the Senate and Barr is in the House. Anytime legislation is introduced, having someone with similar ideas introduce it in the other chamber is a big win. Because now we have two numbers that we can give you guys, right? So you can email your senator and you email your member of Congress. I'm hoping next week, Brian, that we can share the other members that are beside Sheehy and Barr. And I think that'll give a little more clarity. But again, I don't want to get in front of the senator. I'd love for him to have his time in the sun, but this is in no way, they do not compete against each other.
No, that's right. And again, just to reiterate what Dwayne said, it only makes the case stronger for the industry, especially if you have, a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate get introduced right around the same time, and they're very close to mirroring each other. That is something that is a huge win for the industry. And frankly, the fact that this could potentially happen. Not saying it will, anything can happen. But in a perfect world, if this were to happen, that is something that Congress doesn't necessarily do very often in a very well-timed manner. And it only will help our case. Excuse me. If we get federal legislation, again, this is a good question, and I'll
Mhm.
come back over the top and answer this one. If we get federal legislation, does anyone think that states with hemp bans will open back up? States like North Carolina are currently trying to adopt a federal law. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so what I will say again on this one is if we are able to get a federal regulatory structure in place, it's going to provide states a roadmap on
Mhm.
what they can do, what they can't do, and not necessarily can't in certain regards. So for interstate commerce, that is protected. Now, states are entitled to, just like with alcohol, states are entitled to put forth their own regulatory structure to make it stricter. Certain states still have dry counties, which is absurd.
A lot of
And
states in the South have dry counties.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that is a thing that happens. Some states, states, if states wanted to, they could enact an 18 year old drinking age. Um, but if they do that, they lose access to federal dollars for highways.
Well, and then also you got to remember too, Nevada and Utah are right beside each other and have different alcohol laws,
Yeah, that's right.
very different alcohol laws. So,
So what I would say is once we land on as an entire industry and everyone working together, should we land on a regulatory structure on the federal side, we have a roadmap on what the states should do and what we should continue fighting for. And as someone that's a states' rights guy, and also as a lot of members of Congress, they want their states to be able to enact their own laws and own rules. And so I do imagine that what you will see in this final bill is it will allow states to make their own laws and rules that could make this more strict if they want it to. If they want to make it less strict, I'm sure they can as well. But again, we're in a place where new industry just popped up in the last 6 years or so to really where we're at. Since the 2018 Farm Bill, the hemp industry's been moving really quickly.
very quickly.
2 years ago, we were at 226,000 jobs. Today, we're at just shy of 500,000 jobs, right? That's a very quickly growing industry. And for Congress to land on a regulatory structure as quickly as they have, or hopefully will, is a good sign, but they're not going to get it perfect overnight. And that's just something we have to be, eyes wide open on. And also, it took them how many years to regulate alcohol?
Oh yeah, but you
And
also got to remember,
tobacco.
Brian, they banned it,
They,
and we
yeah,
saw
that
how
was a
that worked
problem.
out. Now again,
We don't
you
like
know,
bans.
my well, I was just saying my grandparents in Western North Carolina made a living uh off of some moonshine. So,
Oh, that's
that's all
cool.
I'll say. But yeah,
That's a fun
once you
story.
get into the hills,
You don't know what's going on up the hills.
exactly. If you've had the apple pie, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Um,
All right, got time for one more?
sure. Let's get
Okay.
wild.
I'll let you pick that one.
I don't know if I want to pick that one. I was
I'll
looking
pick
at
the
the
last one.
KIV one. You pick yours. You pick your favorite.
Uh, da, 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 da.
The KIV question that someone just asked about removing THC from shelves, that's a state legislative problem. And unfortunately, hemp industry, in states where we are operating, we tend to be reactive, not proactive. We need to hire lobbyists in advance, stand up associations, and keep those associations well funded. As I've noticed in this industry, we do a lot of this and don't continue funding organizations that actually have good infrastructure. Hifa, fortunately, we have, some consistent donors and folks that have enabled us to provide and keep going a consistent infrastructure and lobby team. But we always could use more money to do more. So if you do want to donate, we'll drop in to the link right now, a donation link. Please, please, please donate. We need as many dollars as we can because there are things that I want to do that are more than what we are already doing, such as ad buys and things like that to add additional pressure. Dwayne, you have a question you want to?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, hello at WNC. I hope that's Western North Carolina. Yes, apple pie moonshine in Western North Carolina. Shout out. I am from Morganton, so you know I'm all about Western North Carolina. Some people are asking about what are the odds of something getting done. Again, I don't sugarcoat things. I feel good. I really do. The conversations I'm having with the people that I'm having with are not just for flair. The conversations I'm having are people who are mobilizing. And again, a lot of it's not public, but this is an issue that the new players that have came on, and again, guys, within what 7 months we brought on Andy Barr to introduce legislation, right? 8 months we brought on Senator Sheehy to have his bill. And there's a lot more behind the scenes that are mobilizing. And again, whenever I see it on a bipartisan level, it makes me even more excited. because there are still some must-pass vehicles between now and the end of the year. And I understand the end of the year is past November. But there are some most pass vehicles, and there's also members that want to get this done as soon as possible on both sides of the aisle in both chambers. So with that, it is 4:30, Brian. It's my early happy hour.
Oh boy.
Absolutely. I hope you guys all had a great 4th of July. Hope
See
the
you next
fireworks are phenomenal.
Wednesday. Next Wednesday,
That's what I was about to say. Next Wednesday, give the shout out.
Senator Sheehy. Let's go.
And more details are coming. But again, tune in next Wednesday. But get ready to potentially host your member of Congress or your senator. Put in a meeting request over the August recess, right? The more they hear from you, the more they come back saying that they got to get something done. So with that being said, you guys have a blessed day. We'll see you soon.